Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to our Sunday segment of Divine Femininity United. I'm your girl, Dr. Bianca, Miss B. Lee, and we are here for our another chapter reading, actually, of the book that we are reading through right now. An amazing book that we are reading through, versus Force: The Hidden Determinants of Human Behavior, written by the amazing Dr. David R. Hawkins. This man here has phenomenal writings. This is the first of probably 15 to 20 books that he's written. And speaking about, he's breaking down in this book, we've gone over several things regarding the levels of consciousness and all of those things, and how in our own molecular system and in our own kinesiological system, the brilliance of our bodies, you all. First off, man, there's no word that can describe the phenomenon that the Creator, the Almighty, the Infinite Intelligent One created us to be. Our systems are amazingly genius crafted. You understand what I'm saying? And so, what Dr. David Hawkins has found is that our bodies can determine the difference between truth and falsehood simply by being in the presence of, or hearing, or being holding, or just energetically it can determine. You can watch something on TV and your body can molecularly determine if that person on the television screen, i.e., a political candidate, is telling the truth or not. This is just, I mean, and not only is this something that he created or founded, but it's reproducible, which is science. Science does not even take it seriously if it cannot be replicated. Okay, because after the first creator of a thing, a theory comes about. After they leave here, that theory should be able to be reproduced over and over and over again. He has created it in such a way that it can be. And there's so much healing that has taken place as a result of this man's findings. And when I tell you, it's nothing but him tapping into his divine sacred library, because it's not man thinking. He had to transcend the mind of, or the limitations of the human mind, the psychological mind, in order to come through with this concept. And that's one of the reasons why I personally, as a doctor, am in the wellness arena, because oftentimes what I found in this field is that scientists and medical practitioners have removed the spirit from the practice. The spirit of us is the us of us. The body, the physical portion of us, the psychological mind, our, the functioning and the behaviors of our bodies and whatnot, that is just our human shield in order for us, our spirit, to operate in this realm, 3D human earth life. Just like an astronaut has to put on an astronaut suit in order to operate in space and to live. Okay, same thing with us. Our spirits are limited in what we can do here on this planet without our meat suit. And this meat suit, just like the astronaut space suit, has things that it has the ability to do to ensure that our spirit self can excellently function in this realm, which is why even in the sacred text it says that we are to be in this world, not of this world. But oftentimes we get to the world and forget who we are and become this world. We become the titles that we've been given. I am a mother in this life, but as I am a spirit who also has a title of mother. I am a spirit who also has the title of daughter, who also has the title of sister, who also has the title of aunt. That's with anybody. But we get lost in these things that is assigned to this human life, forgetting who we are originally. right? And so when we get connected to those things, which are low and debilitating energetic level stuff, okay, frequencies and vibrations, they're low hanging fruit. We get lost in these things, and it brings our conscious levels down. It brings us down, okay? When the highest range of consciousness that we can achieve in this life, that Christ, Buddha, Krishna achieved in this life, is it ranges from 700 to 1,000. That's the only level. That's 1,000 is the highest level that we can achieve in this human life. Of course, outside of this human life, we can transcend and go higher. But the limitations of this human shell only limits us to 1,000, okay, on the level of consciousness. But it's anything under 200, as we've learned in this book so far, is low and debilitating. We as a human race test at, or we have a gauge of 307 as a whole human race. That's not far from 200, okay? And so what we're learning here in this journey is how to elevate ourselves to the higher levels, how to get ourselves up. And then we're learning that what those low vibrating energy levels are looking at. Like 75 is grief, 20 is shame. Okay. You got 175, which is pride, right? And then you have, I believe, 150 is desire. You know what I'm saying? Under desire at 100 is fear. Okay. So desire is low, below 200, because desire, some people say, for instance, I'm going to say Oprah Winfrey, for example, okay? Billionaire, but yet desires more money, desires more power, desires more, you know what I mean? So there's no sense of satisfaction almost, you know what I mean? So, and this is no hit against her. I'm just using her as an example. It could be anybody, okay? But that desire always has us reaching and grabbing for more. And when we're reaching and grabbing for more, we often overlook what we currently have and lack gratitude for what is here now, because we're too busy out there instead of right here. That's why it's a low debilitating energy level, conscious level. So we're learning these things. We're learning where we are. Honestly, I'm talking about taking an authentic look at ourselves. Where am I right now? What level of consciousness do I hold right now in my current state? Where do I desire to be? And then what is it going to take to get there? What am I going to have to purge? What am I going to have to renew? What am I going to have to, mature in? Right? And so that's what we're learning in this book. And when I tell you, it is absolutely phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So we do one chapter each session, Sundays at 5, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, both Eastern Standard Time, okay? So whatever that translates over in your time zone, then, do that and join us at any point, okay? Alrighty, so this week we are reading chapter 8. And that title of chapter 8 is The Source of Power. The Source of Power. Here we go. The ultimate object of our investigation is a practical understanding rather than an academic or philosophic one. Although certain philosophical conclusions can immediately be drawn from even a brief analysis of power and force. From a practical viewpoint, before proceeding, we need to know what the intrinsic source of power is and how it operates. What accounts for its greater strengths? Why is it that force always eventually succumbs to power? In this respect, the Constitution of the United States can provide a rewarding study. This document calibrates at 700. Wow. Come on now, keep it in mind that the highest in this realm is 1,000. The book that we're reading calibrates at 800. Okay? So there's that. Okay? Read this book, apply the lessons in this book, and there's elevation right there. Hello, somebody. Okay? The Constitution of the United States calibrates at 700. If one goes through it sentence by sentence, the source of its powers appears. It's the concept that all men are created equal by virtue of the divinity of their creation, and human rights are intrinsic to human creation and therefore inalienable. Interestingly enough, this is the very concept that was the source of power for Mahatma Gandhi. Wow. Next section, power versus force. On examination, we'll see that power arises from meaning. It has to do with motive, and it has to do with principle. Power is always associated with that which supports the significance of life itself. It appeals to that part of the human nature that we call noble, in contrast to force, which appeals to that which we call crass. Power appeals to what uplifts, dignifies, and ennobles. Force must always be justified, whereas power requires no justification. Force is associated with the partial, power with the whole. If we analyze the nature of force, it becomes readily apparent why it must always succumb to power. This is in accordance with one of the basic laws of physics, because force automatically creates counterforce. Its effect is limited by definition. That's kinetic energy. We could say that force is a movement. It goes from here to there or tries to against opposition. Power, on the other hand, is still. It's like a standing field that doesn't move. Gravity itself, for instance, doesn't move against anything. Its power moves all objects within its field, but the gravity field itself does not move. I got that. I understand that. Force always moves against something, whereas power doesn't move against anything at all. Force is incomplete and therefore has to be fed energy constantly. Power is total and complete in itself and requires nothing from outside. Man, I'm getting this. I hope you all are too. It makes no demands. It has no needs because force has an insatiable appetite. It constantly consumes. Power, in contrast, energizes, gives forth, supplies, and supports. Power gives life and energy. Force takes these away. We notice that power is associated with compassion and makes us feel positively about ourselves. Force is associated with judgment and makes us feel poorly about ourselves. Force always creates counterforce. Its effect is to polarize rather than unify. Polarization always implies conflict. Its cost, therefore, is always high. Because force incites polarization, it inevitably produces a win-lose dichotomy. And because somebody always loses, enemies are created. Constantly faced with enemies, force requires constant defense. Defensiveness is variably costly, whether in the marketplace, politics, or international affairs. It's so true. In looking for the source of power, we've noted that it's associated with meaning, and this meaning has to do with the significance of life itself. Force is concrete, literal, and arguable. It requires proof and support. The sources of power, however, are inarguable and aren't subject to proof. The self-evident isn't arguable. That's a fact. You don't have to. What's the saying? The truth needs no explanation. It stands alone. That's power. That health is more important than disease. That life is more important than death. That honor is preferable to dishonor. That faith and trust are preferable to doubt and cynicism. That the constructive is preferable to the destructive. All are self-evident statements, not subject to proof. Ultimately, the only thing we can say about a source of power is that it just is. That's a fact. Every civilization is characterized by native principles. If the principles of a civilization are noble, it succeeds. If they're selfish, it falls. As a term, principles may sound abstract, but the consequences of principles are quite concrete. If we examine principles, we'll see that they reside in an invisible realm within consequences itself. Although we can point out examples of honesty in the world, Honesty itself, as an organizing principle central to civilization, does not independently exist anywhere in the external world. It's true. True power then emanates from consciousness itself. What we see is an invisible manifestation of the invisible. Pride, nobility of purpose, sacrifice for quality of life, all such things are considered inspirational, giving life significance. But what actually inspires us is the physical world. In the physical world are things that symbolize concepts with powerful meanings for us. Such symbols realign our motives with abstract principle. A symbol can marshal great power because of the principle that already resides within our consciousness. Meaning is so important that when life loses meaning, suicide commonly ensues. It's true. Wow. Meaning is so important that when life loses meaning to each individual person, suicide commonly ensues. When life loses meaning, we first go into depression. When life loses sufficiently meaning, becomes sufficiently meaningless, we leave it altogether. Force has transient goals. When those goals are reached, the emptiness of meaninglessness remains. Power, on the other hand, motivates us endlessly. If our lives are dedicated, for instance, to enhancing the welfare of everyone we contact, our lives can never lose meaning. If the purpose of our life, on the other hand, is financial success, what happens after after it's been obtained? This is one of the primary causes of depression in middle-aged men and women. It's so true. That's actually what happened in the Great Depression. People they felt powerful or indestructible when they had the power and the money. But the moment they lost the money, they lost their meaning, they lost their sense of purpose, their sense of, confidence and things like that. And they felt at that moment life wasn't worth living because their focus, their purpose, that the purpose that they developed in their own life, their purpose in their life was financial success. They lost the success, they lost the finances, and then they lost themselves. Wow. This is one of the primary causes of depression in middle-aged men and women. The disillusionment of emptiness comes from failing to align one's life with the principles from which power originates. A useful illustration of this phenomenon can be seen in the lives of great musicians, composers, and conductors of our own times. How frequently they continue productive careers into their 80s and 90s, often having children and living vigorously until a ripe old age. Their lives have been dedicated to the creation and embodiment of beauty, which incorporates and expresses enormous power. We know clinically that alignment with beauty is associated with longevity and vigor because beauty is a function of creativity. Such longevity is common in all creative occupations. It's so true. Oh my goodness. And then there's no limit to beauty. There's no limit to that because the beauty that we see is our own to embody. So we'll always be seeing beauty in things. Listening to songs, that's why some songs will never go out of season. They will forever be classics because anytime that it's heard, we see the beauty in it. It relates to something, it aligns with something, we feel it in the heart space, or we feel it in our mind, or we feel it in, we can relate it to a circumstance, an event, a memory, a milestone, whatever the case. And it transcends the artist. That's the phenomenal part. My goodness. Next section, new paradigms. The philosophic position of positivism, based on the premise that nothing is real except as it is quantifiable, is native to the sciences. The source of power, however, are invisible and intangible. The fallacy of logical empiricism is clear from its essential premise. To say that nothing is real unless it's measurable is already an abstract positive, is it not? It's true. This proposition itself isn't tangible, visible, or measurable. The argument of tangibility is itself created from the intangible. It's so true. Even if such a position were valid, who would want to live without pride, honor, love, compassion, or valor? Despite the pathetic implications of this argument, let's address it nevertheless. Does power have any tangible basis? Does it proceed exclusively from the undefinable, the mystical, philosophic, spiritual, or abstract? Is there anything more we can know about power that would make sense to those who are oriented only to that left brain world, which, regardless of its computerized sophistication, remains only a system of mechanical measurements? It's true. They can't see beyond the measurements and the logic and the reasoning and the rationalization of it all, left brainers. Before we proceed, let's remind ourselves that the most advanced artificial intelligence machines in the world are unable to feel joy or happiness. Force can bring satisfaction, but only power brings joy. Victory over others brings us satisfaction, but victory over ourselves brings us joy. But as previous chapters have shown, not only can these qualities now be measured, they can be accurately calibrated. To make this fact more comprehensible to reason, let's continue our tour through some easily understood concepts from advanced theoretical physics. We needn't be intimidated by those concepts. To the contrary, their implications for daily life, though profound, are quite simple. We don't have to understand the molecular structure of rubber in order to benefit from having tires on our cars. That's true. Even though their proofs may be complex, Einstein's theory of relativity, Bell's theorem, and so on can all be stated in a few easily understandable sentences. Several recently defined concepts have relevance in understanding the nature of power. One is physicist David Bohm's theory, which states that there is both visible and invisible universe. There is both a visible and an invisible universe. This idea shouldn't be daunting. Many things that we have a daily familiarity with, such as X-rays, radio waves, and TV waves, aren't visible either. An enfolding universe runs parallel to the visible unfolded universe, which is itself merely a manifestation of that enfolded visible universe. That's true. As above, so below. That's so true, man. I never thought about that, but I know that I'm not above understanding that or realizing that for sure. That is so true. Thus, for instance, did the idea of building that world's tallest building rally support? Eventually, the result was that an indivisible concept became the Empire State Building in the visible world. It's so true. As above, so below. So before anything is manifested outwardly, it's seen, it's already there inwardly. That's how manifestation works, actually. We got to see it. We got to know it. We got to exist in it. We got to see ourselves in it before we can even take steps towards it. That's why vision boards and all of that stuff are productive, for sure. That makes sense. The unfolding universe is connected with human consciousness as inspiration arises in the mind of a creator. Baum says meaning links mind and matter like opposite sides of a coin. It's true. Meaning links mind and matter. Another useful concept is Rupert Sheldrake's notion of morphogenic fields or M fields. Okay. These invisible organizing patterns act like energy templates to establish forms on various levels of life. It's because of the distinctiveness of M fields that identical representation of a species are produced. Something similar to M fields also exists in energy fields of consciousness, underlying thought patterns and images, a phenomenon termed formative causation. The idea that M fields exist, assist learning has been verified by wide-scale experimentation. When Sir Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, he created a new M field. The belief system prevailing in human consciousness had been that the 4-minute mile was a limit of human possibility. Once the new M field was created, many runners suddenly began to run new sub 4-minute miles. It is so, my goodness, that is so true. That goes along with the saying, you don't realize how strong you are until being strong is all you have left. You don't realize it. We may not think that we can pick up this car, but if you are under pressure and somebody is chasing you and you need to get under this car, I guarantee you bionic arms are going to appear and you're going to lift this arm up. Adrenaline is going to happen somewhere, okay? And when it's all said and done, you're going to think back and say, wait a minute, hold on, did I just pick up a car? Listen, okay? So I can understand that. So it took one person to break the infield, the limitation of a 4-minute mile, for other people to see that it is possible and do it again. Man, come on, trendsetter. This occurs every time mankind breaks into a new paradigm, whether it's the capacity to fly, an infill created by the Wright brothers, or the capacity to recover from alcoholism, an infill created by Bill W., the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous. Once an infield is created, everyone who repeats the accomplishment reinforces the power of the infield. That is so true. We're all familiar with the fact that new ideas often seem to arise in the minds of several far-removed people at the same time. Somehow, the infield acts as an organizing principle, like a sort of general magnetic attraction. An infield doesn't have to move anywhere. It's a standing energy field that's present everywhere. Once it's created, it exists as a universally available pattern throughout the invisible universe. So true, man. Do you all see how phenomenal this is? I hope you do. I really do hope you do. I hope that you are not, it's not going above your head, because this right here, what he's speaking of here, is the power of you. This stuff is talking about the things of you, the makings of you, your most divine, sacred ingredients that we don't tap into enough, right? Because it's not at the forefront of our consciousness. It's not at the level of awareness, right? It's in there, but even there are movies that talk about, which are true, but there are movies that talk about how we're only using anywhere between 10 to 15% of our brain's capacity. Are you kidding me? So imagine, which is why I love the movie Lucy, imagine if we were to use more. Imagine if we were to tap into more of what we are capable of doing. Okay? What the problem is, I believe we have gotten to a place of complacency. We're lazy. You know, we create these habits, these routines. Well, I'm just gonna stay right here. I just want to be a worker. I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to own nothing. I just, let me get my 40. Let me get my 40 hours. I'm good. As long as I can pay my rent, my bills, give me a couple oodles and noodles. I'm good, So we don't push ourselves to see what we're made of, because we have believed the idea that we cannot do it. We've probably been told that. We've probably, told ourselves that, and we've believed it. But what happens when you tell yourself the opposite? What happens then? My goodness. Okay, here we go. Next section, chaos theory. Chaos theory. The next concept we need to consider in more detail is the chaos theory, the nonlinear dynamics. Its first application was in the examination of weather. Over the centuries, the study of it had established a consensus that there was no definable, predictable mathematical pattern to weather, just as it had also been determined that there was no mathematical way to prove when a dripping faucet will drip, or even to explain how a droplet is formed. Chaos merely means a mass of apparently meaningless data, for instance, dots, in which one can't see any inherent organizing pattern. With the advent of advanced computer technology, it was discovered that inner organizing patterns could be found by computer analysis in what looked disorganized. That which appears to be incoherent actually has an inner coherence. It's true, everything has a meaning and order. Just because we don't understand it doesn't mean it's not understood or there's no understanding to it. Such analysis revealed patterns that often look like the figure eight folded back into itself, frequently with a funnel effect, so that the graphic itself has a repeatable geometric configuration. What science has realized is what mystics have claimed throughout the centuries, that the universe is indeed coherent, unified, and organized around unifying patterns. It's true. It's true. Nonlinear dynamics has verified that there really is no chaos in the universe. The appearance of disorder is merely a function of the limits of perception. That's right. We think there's chaos because we think that, because we've labeled what chaos is and what chaos should look like, or whatever the case, not realize, like, say for instance, ooh, thank you, Spirit, for this. Oh, my goodness, that was good. So you say, for instance, you live in house A, your neighbor lives in house B. They have, flowers all over the place, all different color flowers. It's like it's like a flower nursery over there. Okay. Your yard is prim and trimmed and cut low, and you might have your flower beds here and there. They're symmetrical and things like that. You have yellow daisies on one side, in the middle of the flower bed. You have yellow daisies on the other side in the middle of the flower bed. So everything is just perfectly in order, balanced and things like that. But your neighbor has flowers everywhere. It's just, no rhyme or reason in your mind. In your mind, as it pertains to, as far as your limited perception is, because you're only set to see order as how you say it is, and set to see that if anything is out of your order definition, then it's out of order. That's why society is the way it is now. That's why we always have so many opinions about everybody's life. That's why we always feel that we have a say-so in how people do this, how they raise their children, how their hair is supposed to look, how many piercings they should have or not have, how many tattoos they should have or not have, how they should dress this way and not this way, and what a woman should be doing and what a man should do, and all of that. Because we're stuck on our own limitations. How we see a thing is how everything should be according to us. The gospel according to me. Okay. We are a society that is notorious for labeling, for measuring and gauging, and for, oh my word, it's crazy. And then it's funny because everybody got so much to say about everybody else. The gag is little to say about themselves. Hello, somebody. Because there's your time consumer right there. You want to spend some time talking? Look in the mirror. How about that? Okay. All right, here we go. Let's move on. Woo, child. Let's move on. Okay, here we go. My word. This is good, y'all. Okay. I told you all. The settlement over on YouTube says so I'm cracking up because they are laughing out loud. They said nobody watching those thoughts. See, nobody watching those thoughts. That's hilarious. Listen, and that's the thing, because they are thoughts according to our opinion. Okay, their thoughts are according to our perception. They could be the sweetest, loving, the most loving, but they just love to dress, they like to dress risque. And then who's to say it's risque? Who am I to say that what they're dressing is in their mind, they dressing normal? Okay. Listen, you all, it's deep. It is really deep. And then when we hear these things, run it past your own life, right? And say, man, do I do this? I know I do. Oh, I know I do. We all do. Okay. If you say you don't, then start there. Start at the lying portion of your of your scan. Okay. Start at the lying section. Okay. Because baby, we all do. All right. My goodness. This came as a disturbing revelation to left brain people, but seems self evident to right brain types. It's true. Creative people merely write, paint, sculpt, or design what they already see within their own mind. That's a fact. That's a fact. After all, we don't dance from logic, we dance from feeling patterns. We make our choices from values, and values are associated with intrinsic patterns. The accepted chain of causality, as commonly understood in the basic sciences, occurs as the sequence A to B to C. In this scheme of material, material determination, nothing is inherently free, but only the result of something else. It's thereby limited. What this system really defines is the world of force. Force A results in force B and is transmitted to force C, with consequence D. D in turn becomes the beginning of another series of chain reactions. Ad infinitum, which is the infinity of the sequence of, A goes to B, goes to C, goes to. This is the left brain world. Yep, it sure is, because everything is in order. Read from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, right? Everything has to be in order and makes sense to a left brainer. Okay, this is the left brain world, mundane and predictable. It's the limited paradigm that the conventional sciences operate from. Familiar, controllable, able to be charted, but uncreative, right? Determined, and therefore limited by the past. It's true, limited to what was, what used to be, what we were able to see before. So we're viewing now things or future possible things through the lens of what was. Inherently, you all bringing our past into our future, right? We don't want that sometimes, but we do that. We live like that all the time. It isn't the world of genius, but to many it feels safe. Exactly. It's the world of productivity and practicality. But to creative people, it seems pedestrian, prosaic, and uninspiring. It's true. It's one thing to conceive of the Empire State Building, it's something else to make it happen. To make a thing happen requires motivation. Motivation is derived from meaning. Therefore, the visible and invisible worlds are linked together, as we've already diagrammed with ABC becoming A to B to C, okay? Here we see the concept ABC, which is within the invisible, enfolded universe, and will activate emergence with the visible world to result in A to B to C. So we see, okay, so in our mind, we see the whole thing put together. So there is no separation. We see the whole thing, we see the finished product. But coming into the visible realm, we gotta do one at a time. You know what I mean? We gotta, if you see your home built, finished in your mind, right? You see your everything put together in your mind. You see the vision. You see everything. You see your refrigerator where it needs to be. You see the hardware on your cabinets. You see the color of the cabinets, and this and the third. You see everything done. But when it comes to the putting it together in the physical world, you got to first let me start with the counters, and then I'll go to the sink, and then I'll go to the cabinets, A to B to C, right? So that's how I can make you all to see what the book is explaining here. I hope I did a good job. I hope you all understand. Okay. All right. Excuse me. Thus, the visible world is created from the invisible world and is therefore influenced by the future. Exactly. The capacity of the invisible concept to materialize is based on the power of the original concept itself. We must say that the right brain gets the pattern and the left brain makes it visible. Yes. Oh, that's good. That's utilizing our entire brain. And ABC, which is the whole picture, may be either a high energy attractor or a low energy attractor. Certain concepts and values apparently have greater power than others. Thus far, science has only defined that attractors may have either high energy or low energy. Simply stated, powerful attractor patterns make us go strong, and weak patterns make us go weak. Some ideas are so weakening that merely holding them in mind hinders a test subject from being able to keep his arm up at all. Wow. Other concepts are so powerful that when they're held in mind, it's impossible to force down the subject's arm with any amount of exertion. This was a universal clinical observation. Powerful patterns are associated with health. Weak patterns are associated with sickness, disease, and death. If you hold forgiveness in mind, your arm will be very strong. And he's talking about the test that he's created and things like that we talked about in previous chapters. If you hold forgiveness in mind, your arm will be very strong. But if you hold revenge, your arm will go weak. For our purposes, it's really only necessary to recognize that power is what makes you go strong, while force makes you go weak. Love, compassion, and forgiveness, which may be mistakenly thought of as submissive by some, are in fact profoundly empowering. Revenge, judgmentalism, and condemnation, on the other hand, inevitably make you go weak. Therefore, regardless of moral righteousness, it's a simple clinical fact that in the long run, the weak cannot prevail against the strong. That which is weak falls of its own accord. Individuals of great power throughout human history have been those who have totally aligned themselves with powerful attractors. Again and again, they have stated that the power they manifested was not of themselves. Each has attributed the source of the power to something greater than themselves. All of the great teachers throughout the history of our species have merely taught one thing over and over, in whatever language, at whatever time. All have said simply, give up weak attractors for strong attractors. Who give up weak attractors for strong attractors? I felt that in my entire body. Weak attractors being unforgiveness, anger, rage, low self-esteem, pity, shame, guilt, pride. My goodness, hatred, fear. Oh man, I felt that in my whole body. And give those up for strong attractors, love, peace, joy, victory. Wow, 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 wow. In examining these attractors, we'll notice that some weak patterns tend to imitate, in form only, more powerful patterns. These we'll call imitators. Thus, the German people under the Third Reich were deceived by patriotism because they thought it was patriotism. Okay? The demagogue or the zealot tries to sell us imitators as the real thing. The demagogues, to this end, always put forth a great deal of rhetoric. Those who move from power need say very little. Again, what's real does not need to be explained. It doesn't need to be convinced. It doesn't need to be proven. It just simply is, as the chapter stated. It just simply is. There's no debate needed. None of that. It just simply is. The sun does not have to debate or explain why it's warm. It just simply is. That's it. There's no need to force what just is. Okay? Now we can simply allow it to be, not control it or make it try to be something. No, just allow it to be what it is. Because it just simply is. Yeah. That was the end of chapter 8, you all. That was the end of the first part of the book. The first part of the book was entitled Tools. So we had to go over all of the tools. The second part, we're at part 2, which is entitled Work. Okay. So that starts with chapter 9, which we're going to pick up on Tuesday in 2 days. Okay. Tuesday, we're going to talk about chapter 9, Power Patterns in Human Attitudes. Power Patterns in Human Attitudes. That is good. This was good. Man, this was good. This was good, man. Seriously. Wow. This book is phenomenal. If you want the book, I offer it to you every time. To receive this book, inbox me. Inbox me with your email address, and I will send the book over to you. You can sow a seed into the organization if you desire. It's not required, but you know, it's there for you to do if you want to do it. Okay. You need this book though. Even if you don't read it along with us, read it. Okay, read it. You are sure to have a shift in how you operate, how you see things, how you feel, how you think, how you move, what you do, how you speak, how you see. Okay. So get the book. Get the book. Again, we're just on chapter 9. We're just going into chapter 9. You haven't missed, you missed a lot, but you haven't missed much. Okay. Just it's a matter of catching up because these chapters are very, very short. As you can see, we started at 5 and it's just 5:46. And a part of that, I was running my mouth. Hello. So we could have been done 25 minutes, probably 20 minutes ago. Okay. But yes, that's what it is. So go ahead and get your book. Get your book. Again, this book is Power versus Force. Written by Dr. David R. Hawkins. Okay. Alrighty, you all. You can email me at info@biancamissblee.com. info@biancamissblee.com. Also, you can visit my website. Those on Clubhouse. We're viewing multiple locations, by the way. I don't know if I said that at the top of the hour, but we're going live on Clubhouse, on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, definitely. So if you want to follow, go to, you can see actually wherever you are, you can see my website. Clubhouse is above my head. On the other platforms, you can see it on the screen. All right. But follow me on social media platforms, you all. Instagram at Dr. Bianca Miss B. Lee. Facebook, same. YouTube, the same. Okay. Alrighty, you all. Again, we will see you all back here on Sunday on Tuesday. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm not sorry. I apologize. But Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here at Divine Femininity United. You all, I love you. I mean it. There's absolutely positively nothing you can do about it. Don't you even try. You'll have an amazing Memorial Day with your family. Enjoy your family, okay? For all of those who served, thank you for your services. My family is a heavy, heavy military family. Okay. So for those who have served, and if you lost people to in service, then we thank your family. We thank your family member for their services, and we thank you for your sacrifice. And we send all the love to you all on this Memorial Day and every day. Okay. Alrighty, you all. Again, I love you. I mean it. There's absolutely positively nothing you can do about it. Don't you even try. We'll see you back here on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here at Divine Femininity United. Peace.